The Harley-Davidson Lowrider ST, a bike that has become one of the most popular and highest selling Harley-Davidsons within modern times, and for good reason. But with the rise and hype of this bike, so has come many commonly thrown around sentiments that when it comes down to it, are just not true, and honestly, could be kind of misleading. So in this video, we're going to discuss some of the common myths that have become associated with this bike. So whether you're in the market for one yourself, or you're a current owner, or you're just here for some miles, come along as we set the record straight around the Lowrider ST. So if you're new to my channel, I am FXDLS Brooklyn. I'm that distance rider from the East Coast, and throughout the last decade have accumulated some serious heat within my stable. One of my main go-to bikes, whether it's laying down miles within my hometown or the long road, has become none other than the Lowrider ST. I've been riding this bike since the first model was dropped, and throughout my time with this bike, I've heard quite a few common misconceptions. Hell, let's just list a few. So let's get into it with one of the most common things I've heard as to a reason why some may write off this bike, which is thinking that it cannot be a capable bike for two-up riding. It's actually kind of funny because between my Road Glide and my Lowrider ST, my wife actually prefers my Lowrider ST because it has her more locked in and closer to the rider, whereas on a Road Glide, there's a pretty sizable gap in space. The winning formula when it comes down to setting up your Lowrider ST for two-up riding is of course the Saddlemen Road Sofa, which is possibly the most comfortable seat I've found for both rider and passenger. This seat, alongside the Harley detachable sissy bar and an additional line for heated gear for days like this, that's all you really need. I've definitely taken it to an extreme when it comes to proving this point, which is laying down a trip centered around two-up moto camping, which was not just doable, but truly enjoyable with this bike. So yeah, to set the record straight, this bike can be easily set up to be comfortable for your passenger. Another common sentiment that I've heard around this bike over the years is that for a couple thousand more, you could get yourself a brand new Road Glide. Now, within the context of what we're talking about, there's a few reasons why this kind of doesn't make sense to say. Number one being that these are two completely different models excelling in different things. For straight crushing miles on the bike trips, hell yeah, the Road Glide is 100% gonna be the better choice all day, every day. But when it comes down to outmaneuvering the chaos that a tight urban situation can throw your way while still providing a platform that is capable for the bike trips, the Lowrider ST is hands down the winning formula. So I mean, this is kinda like going into a hardware store looking for a hammer and having someone say to you that for $5 more you can buy a sledgehammer. Tools that share some similarities, but at the end of the day, are made for two different jobs, and bigger doesn't always mean better. So yeah, in comparison to the Road Glide or a traditional FXRT fairing, the ST fairing definitely aesthetically appears smaller. However, the amount of wind protection I found is almost the perfect balance of what you'd want to cut through the long days on the road while getting just enough wind on those hotter days. Now to optimize this even further, I've upgraded my windshield to none other than Clockworks, so that strangers would send me messages asking me how tall my windshield is. By the way guys, it's 8 inches. But in all seriousness, upgrading your windshield is a pretty easy way to get the perfect amount of wind protection dialed in regardless of what your height is. So again, as someone who has routinely cleared heavy mile bike trips on various models and fairings, I can hands down tell you the Lowrider ST fairing is an A+ when it comes down to wind protection. So even going about 3 years back at this point, I actually kept my Lowrider ST pretty damn near close to stock for the first year that I had it. That being said, a lot of times I would hear the sentiment that in order for my Lowrider ST to feel and sound like a true Harley Davidson, I would have to upgrade the cam. So what I'll say is that before I did the cam swap, the Lowrider ST was really fast. After the cam swap plus a tune, the Lowrider ST was just ridiculously fast. And then of course, taking it to an even more ridiculous level, throwing that 131 kit on there, well, words can't even describe what that's like. But back to talking about the cam. There are obvious performance benefits from a cam swap, such as the bang for the buck that you're gonna get on a dyno pull when it comes down to numbers, as well as fuel efficiency if the bike is tuned right. But to go on and say that quote-unquote a cam swap has to be done to make this bike a capable Harley Davidson is kinda just ridiculous. Especially with the 2025 year models with the upgraded cam stock. Honestly, I don't think I would even touch this. Thing straight ripped out of the showroom. So I've spoken about this extensively in the past. Now clearly, if you're a taller and bigger rider, the bagger platform is probably going to fit you better. However, if you're really drawn to the Lowrider ST for whatever reason that might be, and you are a taller rider, there are strategic ways to set this bike up and make it work for you. Number one, finding a seat that could push you back in the riding position is probably one of the number one solutions. Like we said previously, maybe you're also going to want to go higher on your windshield, and maybe for your bars, you're going to opt for something that has a minimal pullback. But anyways, don't take my word for it. You could see how Dan from O'Toole's Harley Davidson set up his Lowrider ST, on which he actively tours on. Also Dylan, who stands at 8'7", found a way to set up his Lowrider ST Lite without ever having to consider forward controls. So yeah, taller riders, it can be done. If there's a will, there's a way. Winding it down, similar to the point that I made about the Road Glide, I do actively own and ride an FXR, so a lot of what I'm saying here is beyond speculation. I can understand why some equate the Lowrider ST to an FXR, being that the FXR was explicitly referenced within the design phase of this bike years back. But however, just like the Road Glide, the Lowrider ST and the FXR could not be any more different, and of course, will provide two very different experiences. So if you think you're going to be experiencing the ancient glory of what an FXR can offer on your Lowrider ST straight out of the showroom, I can hands down tell you, it's just not the same. And again, this is not to say that the Lowrider ST is not an amazing bike, but at the end of the day, the ST and the FXR should stand in their own categories, existing in their own lanes. And honestly, while we're on the point, a true modern day FXR is probably more closely tied to a Road Glide than a Lowrider ST if you break it down to the bones of the bike. But anyways, as far as I'm concerned, the most true modern day FXR is the many twin cam and Milwaukee 8 swaps that we've seen within the last decade based in a true FXR frame. So in conclusion, honestly, within the current landscape of modern Harley Davidsons being offered, as a distance rider whose default riding environment is in New York City, if I had to choose one and only one bike, it would probably be my Lowrider ST. A bike that can easily cut through and outmaneuver the chaos of an urban situation while being more than capable in regards to a heavy distance bike trip. These bikes have made some serious waves throughout the last 4 years, and for good reason. As always, if you've been watching this far and you're still curious about these bikes, the number one thing to do is to get out and test ride run ASAP. And that's 6 common myths about the Lowrider ST. If you've enjoyed this one, be sure to both like and subscribe, as it does help us out on the path forward. Support me on Patreon and Crushing Miles, Not Algorithms, where we offer fully exclusive motovlog style videos and much more. For those who make miles, not excuses, OutrideYourDemons.com and ForeverCursed.com, because luck is a lie. Stay safe, stay cursed, outride your demons. And on that, FXDLS Brooklyn is out.
Goodbye.